title of this session is Future of Construction, and that can take a lot of different meanings to a lot of different people. You know, we talked as a team about how we should do this. Should we do just a round robin Q&A, panel discussion with the audience, wrap up the day, summarize it? Well, I don't think we need to do that for you. I think you've been here. You can draw your own conclusions, but we should give you some insight as to what maybe each of us in our different areas feel about the future of construction. So without further ado, let's move on. So we have an owner, an engineer, project delivery, and then a combination of AWP, Lean, and projects up here on the stage, right? You've heard from each of us, I think, at some point during the week. All right. So looking at this picture, you can see this is kind of techie, I guess. Construction is changing. There is no question about it, right? You've heard a lot over the last couple days. It will be changing. You heard that little YouTube video that we played this morning showing what happens 50 years ago and how our society and industry has changed. So this should give you, technology will attract new talent. I think new talent in this industry sector, iPads, we talked about that with Exxon and their implementation of iPads, been a big help. But it's been too slow. And there's an opportunity now with AI to improve even more. And you've heard that story if you listen to the RT 391 session, which just studied AI and AWP. You've seen that there's opportunity, but there's blockers, right? So looking at this slide, the future is here. We need to steer technology to continue to serve the primary purpose of construction and commissioning. So the things that we've talked about with real-time progress, real-time data, platform integration, all those things, machine learning is already here. We're using it now quite often. But all of these things need to have a primary purpose of affecting safety, schedule, quality, cost, startup, and carbon reduction. And this is the last slide that I'm going to talk to, but acceptance. You know, we talked about the human behavior part. It is a key to getting technology and process to stick, and we need people in order to do that. The regulatory aspect, robots are really, really cool. You know, you probably, if you were at CI, saw the little robot walking around, and I mean, they're cool, right? But what if they go wrong? You know, what happens when the robot dog hurts someone? Or let's give an analogy to autonomous cars driving. Okay, they're doing a lot of that in some cities. Phoenix, I know, my brother-in-law lives there. And what happens when the car has a wreck or runs over someone or hurt, you know, whatever it may be? You know, who's responsible? Is it the car owner, the hardware supplier, the software company, the insurance company? Who is it? So, you know, there is some reluctance, you know, to just accepting AI for what it is and thinking it can do anything. And then the last thing is maturity. The technology has to work. It's great to have proof of concepts, and we do this all the time. With any new technology, the first thing we do is a proof of concept. Then we do a pilot, small bore. Then we say, oh, this is great, it works. We're going to globalize it now. Okay, that's a fairly good process. But proof of concepts are not to scale. And oftentimes we see one thing and it's small and we put it together and it works. But when you globalize it, you make it big, it's a different animal, different challenge. So only when we get these robust technologies with humans and accept the use of it, it must be easy to do. I was talking about that earlier. If we make something hard and we put that out into operation or into execution, and it's 200 pages of material, it's not going to work. It needs to be simple. Things are going to change, and we need to be able to change with it. We need to be able to engineer better to it. We need to be able to have the technology move with it. We need to change the way we learn. I know AWP University is a great example. We've got some great courses, but these young generations aren't necessarily geared to that. And I think if you were at CII, I'm sure Robin said something about micro-learning versus macro-learning, right? Give me some information to wet my lips, to get my brain thinking about it, and then I'll do the macro-learning after I get that. Give me the learning nugget that goes with what's your little technology or your tool or your AI going to do for me, and how's it work? And give me something small, and then and that's the way the younger kids, at least in this generation, tend to work. So I'll leave it at that, and I will add Mick to come on up.
Thank you, Jay. These 2 days I've been listening and watching sessions. I was so surprised. Everybody now is talking about data. And actually, I'm a member of Data Management Association, which we call it DAMA. Anybody knows DAMA? Oh, good. Okay, so DAMA publishes DMBOK, Data Management Body of Knowledge, which describes data quality or data architecture, data governance, metadata, master data. Yeah, so if you're interested, maybe you can access that web page. Anyway, data, data, data. But we cannot forget about people, right? So I was thinking about where we are. We are doing, obviously, AWP, but then where are we going to? So I was looking at it from engineering perspective first. So, okay, now, they don't want to see my face. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 3 main points. One is evolution of engineering information. So I'm going to pick up 4 keywords. One is decompose, standardize, and integrate, and interoperate. 4 keywords. And then in fact, number 2, AWP starts with decomposition of project information. And then finally, I'm going to talk about the big picture. So the conclusion I already described here, superconductive information exchange. Okay, now let's start with, traditional way of doing engineering information, document-centric. Okay, the people read documents, all right? People understand, interpret, and decide, and the people act. Or sometimes, of course, like a construction equipment, will help us. But the next stage is like a data-centric APC. So engineers produce data, maybe with some documents, but it's just the document is made of data anyway. So machine can read and write, but still the output goes to human being. Humans decide, and then humans operate and machines act. Then the final stage is like data and document together. Okay, it's like a fusion. Then it gives to sort of a lot of databases, and then machine learns, machine recommends, and probably humans still decide. And then machine acts and human monitor. So that's what I was imagining. I think it's a quite simple picture. So document-centric, data-centric, and the fusion. Right, now, so this way, the engineering information, I believe, is evolving to a higher level. And then we can make use of AI, we can make use of robots, that's fine. But if you're only looking at this, that's it. right? AI, robotics, new technologies, but what are we really doing here? So I start thinking about, okay, the difference. Okay, so what we are doing is basically decompose, standardize, integrate, and interpret. Okay, let's look at the engineering information. From documents to data, actually, documents is made of data, right? And then we are putting all into the database, probably following CFO standard, AWP data structure. So that's what we are doing. That means we are decomposing documents into data. Then we standardize, we follow CFO standard, we follow AWP standard, all the data put it nicely in the structure into the database. Then next, the machine can write and read and write because it's already standardized. So the next step is standardized data definition structures. Then the following step is integration of data. So wherever or whatever you want to monitor, like a KPI, you can pull from those data if the data is integrated. You can even compare data between projects. So you can keep track with the trends. Then finally, you can interoperate between machines, of course, but between companies. Okay, so that's a good example of decompose and standardize and integrate and interpret. In fact, this is what exactly we are doing. Right, so next one, we look at AWP from this perspective. So evolution of AWP information. What are we doing? So this is a picture, borrowed from PMBOK, Project Management Body of Knowledge. Okay, project is decomposed into WBS. Say, project management, engineering, construction, procurement. Underneath construction, we have scope 1, 2, 3, following probably CWA. Then after that, CWP. After that, IWP. Then after that, maybe activities. This is what we are doing. So basically, AWP starts with this, but then of course, following path of construction. Okay, so we decompose the project. Everybody says, all the project managers says that project is very unique. So we cannot standardize projects. That's not really true. If you properly decompose into bulk packages, you can standardize. Okay, how we standardize the pieces of the element. You can look at it. Then number 2, standardize. You have an installation work process, for example. Right, then you have an input and output. I repeat again, you have a process, you have an input and output. So input, what we are doing for input, this is constraint management. You need the documents, drawings, and you need material, equipment, that's constraint management. Okay, then after you standardize the pieces of the project elements, you can integrate it. You can actually sum up to any level. Then you can report to anybody. Then you can exchange this information however you want to do with other parties, like say owner-operators, joint venture partners, and equipment vendors, subcontractors, IT providers. Okay, this is exactly what we are doing in the AWP. I'm not saying this is all we are doing, but this is the core concept of AWP. Right. Now, finally, I want to talk about the big picture. Okay, superconductive information interoperability. Why I'm saying this is because if the people to people, we are talking about something, all right, I speak to Ted, you speak to somebody, Jay speak to somebody, you actually have to listen, you interpret, understand, but what we do is probably misunderstand, misinterpret, maybe, maybe you lie. So you don't know, it's like we call it sometimes Chinese whisper. Right. But then once it becomes machine to human or machine to machine, it's going to be still not really good. So if you don't standardize the data dictionary, data definition, machine to machine, they cannot talk to each other. So you have to standardize data definition. We call it data dictionary, right? But then sometimes you want to make decisions based on data, but then the data tells you a wrong story, then you make wrong decision, and then it leads to wrong actions. Okay, maybe something, you are actually making things worse. But then finally, if you decompose all the project information, engineering information, right, project information into the pieces like which standardize, and then everybody knows the definition, then you can communicate without any stress, any resistance, and then you can quickly understand what's going on. Then you can integrate, you can create reports, KPI, monitor KPI, and you can compare projects. Then you can interoperate between parties, even between machines, between machine and people. So this is actually, in my opinion, this is what we are targeting at. So really moving towards this superconductive, super duper, is it too old? Super duper duper cute, right? Super duper duper communication. So moving towards zero waste of time and money. That's what we are targeting. I think we are in the right direction. Thank you.
You ready?
Yeah, that wasn't the order we were supposed to go, but that's okay. We adapt. All right, so first of all, I want to share a couple of things that were said over the few days, or the couple of days. One, we heard from Kevin McNally, the access to data was important, right? We heard that collaboration about making it fun. We heard about get rid of paper, go digital, project. This is why I love this one. Their project is he got the best sleep ever, all right? And we heard from Ted Weitzman, get the right information to the right people at the right time. From Waleed, we heard digital books. And what are we talking about here, right? Hey, it sounds fantastic, but how many of you have these? How many of you are looking at it right now, right? What does that represent? There's a tremendous amount of data that's being exchanged on that phone, right, to get you from one place to another. And you go to a car, you pick out a car, and you love your Tesla, you love whatever it is about it, right, because it's a little different. Or, you go into a healthcare facility, and some you feel really welcomed, and others you don't. So what we're talking about here is the experience. This is the experience economy, which the manufacturing industry figured out about 20 years ago. It said the consumer of any information or the consumer of a product really has to feel an experience. And I think that's what we're really heading. Let's see, can I go? What happened here? Working on it. All right, so the fact is, everything that we're talking about, and my esteemed colleagues up here, are looking at these processes and the future of construction, and it's going to move to an experience-type economy, in my opinion. This is the theory of Fernando. So, do I have to go back? Or do we have this? Can you fix this? Okay, there we go. Okay, now we got it. I could see my face. All right. So let's start about the future, what we must achieve and how we're going to achieve it. So, we heard about the big wave coming, lots of projects, lots of challenges, all right? So we have to be in a position to reduce time, reduce cost, space efficiencies, all these things, commercial, better solutions, standardized products or processes, leading KPIs and metrics that help us make decisions, the carbon footprint, and value incentives, right? These are things that are going to happen if we're going to be able to deliver efficiently. What obstacles do we face today that we have to address, right? Increasing demand for projects, that is happening, and that's going to force us to do things a little differently. Reducing the value, not just the cost, right? Or not just cost, because we want to reduce the cost of things, but we tend to cut out, we call it value engineering, but we cut out the value to get down to a lower cost. But how do we maintain that value? Connecting systems and sharing data, is always a challenge no matter who you are, because everybody's afraid to share the data right now. But we're going to have to get to a future where that actually is happening. And, Mick and Jay and Jeff's going to basically talk a little bit about that, or talked about it. Pressure to reduce time without evaluating the means. How many of you here say, well, we've got this, we've got to shorten the schedule, and what do? You go to the schedule, you start cutting it down, and that's what you're going to do without understanding the production side of it and the means to deliver it. Right? So lack of respect for people and ideas, right? It can't happen in an experience economy, right? Or how we want to deliver our projects and get to this fact that, hey, this is the best sleep ever because things are taking care of itself. And of course the unreliable supply chain, it's only going to get worse. So how do I actually turn that around and get reliability back in the supply chain? So what do I see as the future, right? And everybody's seen this curve, and it's a meaningful curve, right? It's the maturity curve. And I think the first thing with my experience when I go on to projects is we're not even getting up that food chain there and getting better at what we already do. Whether we're AWP, whether we're lean, production management. Let's first start with understanding what the intent is and making it better, improving just that, so we can now get to a better position where we can start looking at these other opportunities and this blend of other practices that we can draw from a toolkit, right? So it's not AWP by itself. It's got a lot of features to it that we can draw from lean project delivery and project production management. Are all key things that are going to have to come together in the future, right? Whether we have the structure, the value, or optimization, right? That has to happen, and that's going to drive the new experience on how we deliver projects. So obviously scalability, we need technology, and that's data, right? Performance, collaborative contracting, how do we get people together to really perform as a team rather than individuals, right? Adoptability, well, how do we get the culture side, really working for us? Because that is kind of key, and I've heard it so many times today. I'm just happy that it's part of the conversation, right? And of course, flow. The ideal experience is that things are just flowing, right? So if we can get to that, and I think we'll get everybody sleeping well at night. But that's not. That's not something that just comes because we wish it, right? It's hard work. So if we look at and try to understand what each of these are offering and ask questions and don't go away and say, well, that doesn't work for me, right? Know what it's trying to accomplish and figure out what parts of it do I like, how can I apply it? Because they are, and I've worked in all three, there's applications in AWP, knowing that most of you are from AWP. We heard a lot about data, right? And so if we're going to get to this automated state, and I call it automation, the future state connected data environment. Automation is a little bit what Mick said about people and machines, right? So we need both, and we need to understand where those sources of data are coming from, because that's like the phone experience, right? You're going to get that, and you want to get that data organized, integrated, so it actually makes sense that you can have that experience that you need or somebody can need, because they're going to get the information, at the right time, right place, and make better decisions, earlier decisions, so others can do their work upstream, down, all the way down through the from engineering through commissioning. Right, that's the handoffs, the experience we want people to have. So, well, that was great. Thank you very much. Now I can go be more productive. All right, the other biggest, I think, opportunity to me is really on the supply side. I think when we look at integrated site material management and increasing reliability across the entire supply chain, is really something to embrace. And if we look at it from a lean perspective, and I think it's on the right, maybe as you're right, where do we want to take the variability out? And that's at the job site. We want people to get what they need when they need it, and whatever it might have to be to the right place, right? So that's what bagging and tagging, is all about. So if we look at the fact that we want our work sites we want to be highly reliable in how we deliver resources, people, materials. We have to figure out where the buffer is given the supply chain variation, where that's got to go, right? And so, is that going to be some kind of logistics center where you're going to have the opportunity to absorb the variability in the supply chain? Or are you going to use those as areas to apply starting commissioning up processes early so we can track commissioning along the way? As soon as a piece of equipment arrives, we can do stuff with it. Can we use those to do pre-assemblies, right? So all these opportunities in the supply chain of how things come together is really going to be, I believe, in the future. We're talking about moving away from always engineering something brand new, unique, even though we want to get to standardization because that's the whole idea. So what Mick said was absolutely spot on. But the fact is, we need to make construction the experience that they have to actually put stuff together. That's what we want to make easy. So it's the dynamics of the supply side, the procurement side, that has to really be thought through. And how do I integrate that a lot better, right? So I can take all this information and do what I need to do to make the project experience a little bit better, all right, and deliver to the site, the stuff they need when they need it. So I think that's huge opportunity in the future to look at that. And I came up with data, programmable logic for projects. Looked up what this all means. So eventually, we talk about, wow, if this all can be automated, what are the implications of that? Automated control system that continually monitors the state of input sources, both human and computer, that's the automation, and makes decisions based on a customized program and sending operating instructions through its outputs. How do we want the projects to respond? And if we think of like Amazon, right? And you can go read the book Enterprise 2.0, and in there they have a term called slates, right? So if you think Amazon and how our projects need to experience something, right? It's first of all the search. We don't want to spend a lot of time searching, not only physical searching, but we want to search anything, and we want to have keywords to figure out where things are, right? The links, distributed links that we can say here, and we see a lot of the software, are the links that can get me to where I need to go and what I want to see, as quickly as possible. And those have to be able to change over time. Authoring, I think that's hugely important, and a lot of packaging that is allowing distributes out the responsibilities to as many as possible, right? It really enables engagement by many, right? So we can get these constant updates, this real-time work. Tags, which you've got to see what Mick's done with tags, right? And how he's talked about it. He's got some great presentations. So, but let's look at the physical tags and other tags that go into attributes. Better categorization and tracking of content with folksonomy. How do people really want to speak and understand, right? Not get out of the computer or the heavy engineering lingo, but it's going to be things where we can talk and get what we need to get, right? Extensions, automating categorization and pattern matching, right, is going to be hugely important. And extensions, if you look at Amazon, if you bought this, then you probably want to look at that, right? Those are kind of extensions. So if you're going to go do this next week, you may want to be thinking about these other things, right? Or you may want to integrate or coordinate with other people, right? So we can drive those extensions through a well attributed model, or at least a group of folks that are working on it. And signals are intelligent notifications that tell people, hey, they're about to start this, your safety professional, you need to be aware that these IDPs are going to go done and they're scheduled for this day or that day, or quality checks or whatever it might be. That's just an example of signals that can go out to people, that things that help us think through, or at least help drive efficiency so people can understand what's going on and we can make a difference in being more productive. So I think that's it, and I expect to see Jeff's smiley face. Or I don't expect to see Jeff at all. Jeff, sorry, you got nothing to say. Oh, there.
Hey, thank you very much, Fernando. Hey, I know that I stand between you and the end of the day here, so I'll try to make this as painless as possible. So you guys came here today with some expectations today and yesterday, and they are arranged around understanding what AWP is, and of course what you can do with it. What's your takeaway from today, or how are you going to, how can you improve your own application, or how can you start your own application? So I'd like to give you a couple of nuggets to take with you. So first of all, I think the last couple of days have been awesome. I heard about all sorts of different ways to apply the model, different methods for making it work. It's all about data. Data's at the middle of it, but certainly I want you to also keep sight of what's around that, or the reason why we're doing it. This is payday. This is where you get paid. It's all about the IWP. We are in the business of giving the foreman a package of work that can get executed. And that has to be your fanatical focus. The reason that we manage data, the reason that we do all this stuff that we've been talking about for the last couple of days, is to achieve this purpose. So on our projects, when we measure the success of AWP, we measure two things. Did the foreman get a package? And did it close on time? And if you do that, then you'll basically be successful at AWP. In order to get there, you have to do what we've talked about for the last 2 days. We need data, we need people, we need process, we need passion, we need a little bit of help. We heard about executive shielding. Yes, we need all of that. But this is what it's all about, and this is actually where the return on investment comes from. Now we heard lots about these numbers in the last couple of days. These numbers are real. We've proven that out. You heard Kevin stand up here and tell you basically that we got that on a mega project. Well, we've got them on small projects as well. The numbers are real. You can reduce your schedules and reduce your cost by giving the foreman a package and making the package good enough that it closes on time. Just do that consistently and you'll be successful. So, just quickly, if you want to build IWPs that close on time, you need data. You need to understand the principles of where workforce planning came from and where AWP came from. Fernando, you talked about this yesterday. The origin of this is last planner. Basically, last planner was can, should, will. I put a variation up here. Should, can, can't is basically what we're trying to do. We heard about data visualization earlier today. Essentially what we're trying to do with data visualization, or a 3D model that's colored. Remember the analogy of the Christmas tree that you gave for a BCEP? That's basically should, can, can't. What should we do? Let's make that stuff red. What can we do? Let's make that stuff green. And what stuff we can't do, let's make that red. That's essentially the foundation of last planner, Fernando. Right? Can, should, will. Right? And that's what we're trying to do. And if you this is the data going to work for us. Telling the people that are building IWPs what they can do, what they can't do, and what we should do. So let me talk a little bit about the process. We talked a little bit about this in the last couple of days, about insourcing data management. So I think if I had my time over here, I would change this slide a little bit and I would call it making data management a profession. You know, that's essentially where we have to get to. And that's actually what we've heard in the last couple of days, is that we know we have to be in the business of data. We have to legitimize the process and the management of data. But basically, we need to take it that extra step and make it a profession, make it a department within our organizations. Because at the moment, it's being done sort of on the back of cigarette packs and in Excel spreadsheets and by people that we employ to do other things. That's where all our data management is happening right now. We need to legitimize it. We need to have a plan for it. We need to do it conscientiously, because we know that that data leads to should, can, can't, and that leads to packages that issue to the foreman and that close on time. So your takeaways from the last couple of days should be, obviously, it's hard. We need data. You need a plan to go there. You need to think about how you're going to do this on Monday, how you're going to help data management become a profession, or how you're going to do that in your own organizations, and you're going to use that to create a focus on IWPs. Build good quality IWPs, measure them to see who got them, how long they lasted, and whether they closed on time. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that. We do have some time, and I think it's important that this be a conversation and not a one-way discussion. So our four experts have shared some pretty impressive, useful information with you. You can either ask them questions, or if you have some comments based on what you've heard over the past 2 days, I think we'd all like to hear that as well. So I've got a mic. You've got thoughts or questions. Let me know who wants to say something. Remembering it's almost 5 o'clock and it is the last day of the conference. So does anybody want to either ask any questions of our panel or provide a comment? Okay. Oh, we got a question. Thank you. Thank you.
It wouldn't be Amy Marks if I didn't say I think the stage looks different in future years with a much more diverse speaker population on the future of the way the construction and design industry is going. So I'll point that out first. Thanks for the applause from the few women in the back and some champions of women, and of diverse populations. I would say that I have to be honest, all last year, expected experience was in my conversations of thought leadership. And I'm not, hopefully not offending anyone up there, but when we talk about things like what if a robot goes awry and hurts somebody, when we have driverless Ubers on the road already today, and somebody in Texas could take a gun and shoot somebody on your job site just as easily. So I just want to point out that we're going to have to use our everyday experiences from other industries and other daily activities that we do to use that same expected experience for change in our space. Because if we don't, we'll have the same people talking about the same things year after year after year. So my thought is that some influence from outside perspectives would potentially be helpful at this point.
Okay.
That's a good comment. I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Hello?
Anyone else
Hello?
like to add to that, or anyone from the stage like to comment on that?
Hello? Hello? There we go. No, so, point taken. I mean, anything can happen anytime to anyone. But when we were talking about future of construction, which is the title of what this session is, we are specifically, I think, looking at what the AI element that's on us today can do for us. One, in helping us be safer and be more productive and have better quality, and all the things that the process of AWP lends itself towards as well. And when we want to take those things that AI has to offer and put them to use, but the human nature is, and also the corporate, I think, governance is, whoa, I can't do that. One, I don't know how to do it. Two, I'm scared of it. Three, it's, unless it's real easy and I don't have to get out a 200-page user manual. I'm not going to do that. And so there's a bunch of blockers to utilizing new technologies, different things, different ways of working. And that's really the only point I think we were making. It wasn't that something or else couldn't affect our world. It does. You're right, every day, no doubt. What else, Lloyd?
Okay, any other comments or thoughts? Mr. Fish.
Yeah, I think Jeff hit on something there that we've defined data requirements, and I think we've done a really good job of that. What we haven't defined is data management requirements. Who, how, when, is it a profession, et cetera. But like I said, right now we got a lot of different people providing data, but it's not really standardized. I would like to see us have a workshop and brainstorm what are the components of data management and what are the kind of people we need to manage, and then come up with some kind of a standard or curriculum for that.
Thank you. I have been asked multiple times today, when's the next event going to be? And as far as the major event, obviously it will be in October, but is there a need for some workshops to try and move this thing forward? Because if we need to get together on specific targeted issues, we can do that. I think the important thing here is, I don't know, is Amy still here? Or not Amy, sorry. Is Annabella still here? Ah, there you are. At the CII event, they brought an exoskeleton. ExxonMobil brought Spot, which is a robot that wanders the site and takes pictures. There is a lot of really cool technology, which is nice, but it's all about the outcomes. It's all about making it safer, more efficient, more effective. It's about pulling together various resources so that we can get the outcomes that we're shooting for. And this is not going away. Anybody who says that, you know what, I think iPhones and Androids are a fad, I think we've proven them wrong. Anybody who thinks that landlines are going to continue to be a popular thing, probably not. So the world's going to change. The question is, do we want to have influence over that change, or do we just want to wait and see what happens? And, there's the old saying, if you ask somebody in the 1800s, what's the future of transportation? They probably would have said faster horses.
Lloyd, I think we'll take the executive committee the opportunity, given the feedback we get from the conference, to make that call. So appreciate that. But John, I don't think we got the answer to your question. Did we? We made a statement, but what was the question? Do we need a?
It was probably more of a statement, but I just wanted to reinforce that I think you're onto something when we really need to address our ability to manage that data. It's all about data, but I don't think we can collect it. Maybe we can get it, but boy, it's another task to manage it, and I'm not sure we have the right people in place. I don't even think organizations have the structure in place to manage the data, the amount of data we're talking about.
Well, I think this is a good one for Mick to answer, but I think with the data modeling effort that's underway, we haven't seen the output of that. And it's an opportunity. It's a pretty significant effort. But getting IOGP to become a supporter of that, and to get them to help get a standards body to adopt that. Now, obviously, that might not happen until this modeling is finished, so maybe Mick should answer the detail about that, because I know nothing about it.
First of all, John, you are in the core member of data modeling, right? And I really think that data models are not for IT people. So data requirements for the business, AWP, data models also for AWP and for business people or for construction people. So that's why if we start explaining, say, maybe starting from CFOs, maybe summary data models, tags and equipment and attributes. So then we built up on top of it the AWP. What is work packaging? What is WBS? And what is inventory? How do we actually identify what constraints we have for each work pack? So this kind of explanation or discussion may take actually not just one hour, right? It may take maybe a few days workshop, but then it's actually, I think it's gonna worth, doing that.
All right, Michael here. I have an observation and hoping to leave it out for comment. And to set up my observation, I want to give some context. I'm hearing, we have a lot of the, you look at methodologies and processes and technology and people systems and so on. You can break it out into many different ways. And some excellent things are being said here. And as a group, there's a passion here to advance this, to move this forward in all our own little ways. And this is great. And so we ought to complement each other on doing that. But my observation is when you move up into senior management within organizations and you're looking for the sponsorship that's required to make this happen, that often tends to be the barrier. We have the right people in place. We have the right energy and passion in the middle management or lower, et cetera, and perhaps from the field. We have the right technologies that we are embracing and developing and so on, and et cetera. But I think as a community, we really need to work at how do we educate the decision makers at a C-suite level, VP level, in their continued education plans, in their coaching that they're doing, in their suite of learning that they're doing within the organization to help them recognize that they do need to step into this. This is something that they do actually need to sponsor step into where they normally wouldn't be perhaps schooled to do so. They would leave their managers to deal with that, right? And just want to touch on that little observation.
Well, I think that's for the owners to answer because that all is about the owner. I can tell you my own story. I can't tell you everyone else's, but the challenge exists, yes. Projects don't happen overnight either. And when we started basically with our body of knowledge in 2017, 2018, and really going at this the proper way, okay? And also looking at a crawl, walk, run approach by using some smaller projects to start. And we tripped a lot. I mean, we still do. So when you get to the point of how do I involve my stakeholders at an EVP level and an executive team level, you better have some information. So we built enough projects over time over this last 5 years to have some of those KPIs in place. Now, a lot of the projects that we really want to showcase are still going on. So those KPIs are continuing to be put together, right? I think any senior leader, especially today, and not having lived through this technology boom that we're going through right now, and they're older and more set in their ways and used to seeing the way projects go, and they're worried about does it benchmark against another company or another project, and that's kind of where you set your target. I think we can beat the snot out of that target, okay? But there has to be some realization that, and you got to get data in order, facts to support that. And some of those things just don't take a lot of time to get to. Does that make sense, Michael? Yeah. But I think 5 years down the road, we now have executive support at the EC level. So, that's a win, and it's taken that long to get there.
All right, Ted Blackman with ConstructX and WorkPacs. Got a point to make first, and then I'll ask a kind of a simple question I'd like to hear the answer from each of the panel members up here. First point, I think it's really critical going forward with the data discussions that we lay the understanding of the difference between the digital threads concept, which was provided over to CII, where that's data coming from external applications. It's not the AWP data model itself in CFOS, which, there's no single application that produces a CFOS model, although there's a number of engineering software vendors that have very sophisticated approaches around their lifecycle data management systems that may adhere to a CFOS specification, but even within those own companies, they don't have a single application that produces all that data. They aggregate that data across the whole set of engineering applications, and those applications pretty much model the nouns of what are going to be built, not the verbs of how it's going to be built. And there's a lot of project management applications that also are contained in those digital thread models. So as we go forward with that, that's really important that there actually becomes a better appreciation around that, I believe, in our discussions going forward. Then the simple question I'd ask, though, is in the future of construction here, how do we add some excitement back into this? I think getting better recruitment and more interest, AWP has now reached a state of, we're at maybe an inflection point, you might call it, where we could get to critical mass adoption, right? We've gone through early adopters and the innovators, the early adopters, and we're now at the point where more people are coming into it, but it feels like it's hard for others to enter into the community, especially if they're abroad and outside of North America. But even within North America, it just feels like, what can we do? What do you see? The question would be, what do you see? How do we make this more exciting to recruit new talent and interest into the community?
Great question, Ted. Yeah, great question, Ted. And I think I'm going to turn it around and ask the audience the same question. Who's not in this room? Who do you know that needs to be in this room that's not in this room? Because those people are the ones that we need to get to these conferences. And that's where the level of excitement is. Most of us that have been to a couple of these conferences know most everybody else in the room. And yes, we've sort of been here many times. It's hard to keep the excitement up between us. We know it works. We know we're grinding against the changing the world. But, that it's still exciting for people who haven't done this. And we need to, it's a sort of a call to action from you, I think, Ted. We need to stay excited about this. And we need to deal with people who are not doing this and get them excited about doing it. Really the responsibility is on you, and that is getting other people to this conference, or finding those other markets, finding those other people, spreading the word, being successful, doing the right things, all the things we know that we have to do. I accept your challenge, Ted. I'm going to try to keep some excitement in what we do, but ultimately we need to be having those excited conversations with people who aren't doing this, to tell them that there is a way to actually manage projects, bring them in predictably, be on time, be successful. There is a way to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because that's part of the challenge of the whole industry, is how do we get more people, to attend these, and actually the people of the future. And I know John Strickland talked about future leaders and how NextGen needs to attract them, but that's also, what do they want to experience in terms of construction? There's a lot of choices right now, and we have those that want to come in and work on, love the technology and love to interface with that technology, and that's going to attract a lot of people if we make it available and accessible the right way. And then there's the frontline supervisors and all the people out in the field that we need to replace. What's going to make it fun for them, right? And it's going to be making their lives a little easier and reliable, and not being as frustrated in doing the work as it is today, right? And they feel rewarded, they feel productive. What's that going to look like in a next gen kind of facility, because that's the whole idea of advanced work packaging, is to give people what they want when they want it in these IWPs. I can be productive, and right, I can feel good about things. Things happen. I don't have these blockages and say, oh, we got to rapidly replan everything, pull that out because we didn't look at the model right? So those things we have to fix. And I see Jay, I'm glad you took that.
Yeah, this is the question of all questions, right? I mean, let's face it. The resources that we have today are less competent. They're less available. We can't get them. They don't want to work for an oil company or an industry that's not considered maybe green, although there's a misnomer about that. Maybe there's lack of information about that, because we are green. We're trying to be green. And I think getting these things into the hands of young folks that make it easy for them to do their job with an iPad and an iPhone, and I'm getting down to VR, all kinds of technologies that are out there that we can use. And the folks that are young love to do that, right? They live on their application and their Facebooks and their Twitters and their Instagrams, whatever they've got, right? So they have a craving for that. I think we tend to oftentimes block ourselves, and because of what I mentioned right here at the end, is that we oftentimes get scared of innovation, and we try to cover all the IT, IRM risk management elements so that we don't, get cyber bullied or whatever it may be. And in order to do that, you're stymieing innovation. So there has to become some kind of a balance in our world too around what does it take to implement something safely and securely without having to go through 6 months of IT work and hundreds of thousands of dollars just to go through the SOC 3, whatever, all these different things that you have to go through with your data quality and security. And that's a blocker.
I hesitate to say this, but in order for other people to maybe get influenced by us, we can be having more fun. And then sometimes, we have been serious about AWP, yes, but it doesn't mean that we cannot have fun, and that we can have smiles. And then we can even introduce some gamification, for the people, especially young people. I mean, gaming is actually a serious one, right? We have been talking about safety, yes, but it doesn't mean that we cannot play games. So I think we can maybe put some elements of fun into the industry and into this conference. Of course, we have enough fun and enough good food, enough good people. Yeah, so I think we can influence after we go back to our office, with smiling faces, we had a lot of fun here. Then more and more young people get maybe influenced. Yeah.
We need more women.
Oh, sorry. Was somebody going to say something? I was just going
I said we need more women.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir. I just want to thank everybody that's here, especially those of you who stayed to the very end. I really enjoyed the sessions. I enjoyed what I heard. And I've been doing this for 15 years. I got to say, we are moving the needle. We are moving forward, but it's going to take all of us. And it's going to take more of us because, as was said, we got to get the word out. But anyway, I want to thank everybody that came. I want to wish you all a safe travels to get back. We will be reaching out to people just to get feedback on what we could do better next time. And our executive steering committee is going to be on me to determine how we go from the numbers we're at to the numbers we want to be at, which is significantly bigger. But thank you so much for being here, for participating, and have a safe trip home.